welcome to She Is You. Today we have Labeeqah Jaffer joining us and she'll be speaking about postpartum depression. Thank you very much, Labeeqah, for availing yourself.
Thank you so much, Jill, and thank you so much for having me. I'm a little bit nervous, but very excited that I get to share some of my story today.
That's awesome. So, can we start off by you telling us a bit more about yourself?
Sure, I hope I don't overshare. I'm very open with my story. So, I'm a 30-year-old first-time mother, um, and my experience with mental health, I think it's not something that's new to me. Um, I've gone through challenges for the greater part of my 20s, um, and I've always been very open to psychological health, mental health interventions, and so it's something that it's always been a part of my life, and so um, the decision to have a baby, I think that you make that decision and you so caught up in the excitement and the joy that you just think, no, I'll be fine. I mean, this is exciting. I'm happy. This is what I want. And I mean, for most people, you're 30, you're a good age, and so. And I think what's important to note there is that it really doesn't discriminate. It's not something that it only affects people in certain socioeconomic areas or statuses. No, anyone is or can be prone to something like postpartum depression, even without a history of mental health issues, in the earlier years. So I think it's important to note that I speak from my own experience, and I've definitely married my passion for mental health and motherhood. And so this is something that I've become very passionate about and speaking about. And I do hope to pursue and continue to pursue my doctoral studies in motherhood and mental health. I do think that women need more of a voice in terms of the experiences of motherhood, and not just the experiences of things like psychosis, where you're focusing specifically on postpartum depression or infertility, but actually just on the experience of being a mother. So I do want to say that my own account of this should not replace the advice of a mental health professional. And so even if you resonate with some of what I'm saying, I think that it's still important to note that you need to consult with a professional if you feel that a lot of what I'm saying is similar or hits home for you. So as I said, 30, my baby is 1 and 4 months old. He turned 1 in December. And I think that pregnancy and giving birth was really the very, very easy part. And people always speak to you about labor and about, that being the scary part and are you ready? And then the conversation just kind of stops. And then the conversation then shifts to the baby. So when people speak to you thereafter, they'll ask you, how's the baby? How's the baby doing? How's the baby sleeping? But they never ask, so how's the mom? How are you doing? And I think, so what's important to note is that I think we underscore how immense and how huge the change is onto your life when you give birth, when you have a baby, when you actually come home with this person that is now your responsibility for the rest of your life. And I think that huge shift of what you've known to be normal is something that is completely underestimated. And in itself, everything that you've known about who you are, your identity, your lifestyle, all of that will come to change. And so, I mean, if you've been a certain way for all your life, most of your life, and all of a sudden one day you come home with a baby and it's different. And so I think that that's the first thing that for me was massive, was everything that I kind of knew was now different. And as a human, it's human nature. We creatures of habit, and so we kind of long for, the way things were. So the first few weeks for me or maybe let's say, can I just backtrack and say, I gave birth by C-section. My baby was born 3 weeks early due to preeclampsia or preeclamptic symptoms that would essentially have resulted in preeclampsia. So I was at risk, and my blood pressure then skyrocketed in the 37th week. And the risk then to leave the baby in was far greater, and he was a good weight. So the decision was made that labor would be induced. I'm very grateful for that decision. Labor was absolutely not traumatic. It was a wonderful experience. Um, so I am grateful that I gave birth when I did, because in spite of all of this, I still think that had I not picked up that my blood pressure was raised, and had I not gone to the labor ward to consult with my gynae about feeling, not feeling well, my baby could potentially have died without me even knowing, because stillbirth, of course, is a high risk at that point with preeclampsia. So I gave birth at 37 weeks, very happy, healthy baby, boy. Was in hospital for 3 days, standard, had my husband with me, and then came home. It was a blessing. I gave birth in summer, and so a lot of the risk about the cold and dressing the baby in 5 layers was eliminated, and the house was nice and warm. We didn't have to worry about any of that. And I remember that first night, my husband and I put the baby in his cot in his little sleeping pod, and we did not sleep a wink. We were so tired, but it just felt so unnatural. I cannot explain it. It felt weird. It just really felt weird. So, how the way it looks in the movies, no, it just felt so weird. Um, and I think that first week was really just survival. And also my mobility was a bit compromised after having a Caesar. So, it was really just survival, trying, for me to heal up. And thereafter, the challenge shifted to breastfeeding. And why this is very important is that this is where a lot of the guilt around mothering comes in for women, which then eventually they find themselves depressed because now the pressure is that the baby must be breastfed. And breastfeeding in itself is such a massive task. And although it's something that we think is natural and all women do it, it comes with a range of difficulties. And so that was the next step. I suffered from something that's called hyperlactation or oversupply. So I had the absolute opposite of most women. I had too much milk. And I know that sounds funny, like, how can you have too much milk? My milk was so much and so abundant that it gushed out. And so what happened was, yes, I had all this milk, but then my child also could not benefit from it. And so he would be on my breast, and the milk would gush out so fast that he would choke and cough and couldn't actually drink. And when he did drink, he swallowed so much wind, and it was an absolutely unpleasant experience. Also felt very powerless, because here I have the milk and my child still not actually benefiting. It's actually making him feel more ill, winds and colic and all of that thing. So for that initial period, I was absolutely controlled by my breasts and breastfeeding and pumping and storing. And it felt like I was in this twilight of, it was just, there was no difference between day and night. It was just one long blur of being in undies, being drenched in milk, sticky all the time. My child struggling with winds because of it. Was really hell. And I cried a lot. I honestly cried so much. It took anything and I would just cry. I felt like I felt like I wasn't able to console my child. I felt that I wasn't in control. And I think that I struggled with that. I felt that if it just wasn't for my breasts, I would be okay. I felt like I just wanted to leave the baby and just go. This is not what I actually want. Um, I felt envious that my husband was able to look at my baby with all this love and all this adoration, and I didn't feel that, because all I felt was this control by my body. I was just controlled by my breasts, by my wound, by my hair that was starting to fall out. It was just, I couldn't enjoy, being a mother and looking at this, cute little baby. And it actually took a consultation with a lactation specialist at 5 weeks for me to be told that it's okay to put your baby onto a bottle. It's okay to put your breast milk, express it and put it into a bottle and not put your baby onto your breast. Although I probably thought this, there was so much guilt that I couldn't do it out of my own. I actually needed someone else to tell me that it's okay, your child is still getting breast milk. And I think that was a bit of a turning point, in that I started to feel like maybe I had a bit more control by putting him on a bottle. And then, of course, my husband could share the responsibility of feeding with me. Once that solved itself, I thought that I would feel better, or I would, develop that little star in my eye. And I think once that was eliminated, I realized, but I don't feel entirely better, although this one issue has been eliminated. So I think that I've always been very in tune with my emotions and my feelings. And so what postpartum depression ultimately looked like for me was that I noticed that over a long period of time, I cried excessively and I cried very easily. I was unable to almost maintain my composure, and there was no calm. I knew I had to care for this baby. I knew he needed me. So that's exactly what I did. Everything was very mechanical. I fulfilled all his needs. But did I feel connected? No. I didn't want to reject him or hurt him, but I didn't feel, I felt like I could do without it. The complete and utter exhaustion due to sleep deprivation also is a big thing. And a lot of health professionals, always allude to the fact that a human being needs sleep before they need food and water, etc. And so we underestimate what that lack of sleep will do to you and, exacerbate your mental health further. My mood was low most of the day, every day. I found that I was always feeling overwhelmed, very irritable. My eating habits were not good. I could go without eating, and this is, of course, is not a good thing for your breast milk production. I also found that I was very fixated on my former life. I thought about my life before my baby all the time. And, you feel all of these things, but you also feel the guilt. So it's really a double-edged sword. So I felt like, fixated on my life before my baby. Why did I do this? I was fine. My life was fine. I was happy. I'm stuck here forever. Like, how do I backtrack from this? I don't know if I want this. I don't, he's my child, and yes, but I don't know if this is for me. Lots of frustration and anger, lots of resentment to other people who didn't have similar struggles. And so the one thing I will note is that my struggle with mental health meant that I did suffer from depressive episodes previously. I have an anxiety disorder, which is contained and controlled with meds. And so I know that the key thing with postpartum depression, where it needs to be treated, is that there's a thought of harming the baby. And so I will say that I didn't ever have that thought, though I do think I was depressed. It took a really long time, a really, really long time for me to be able to say that, you know what, I actually don't mind being a mom, or there are moments that I actually really enjoy. It took a really long time. And it also took a really long time for me to realize that in saying that, I was never saying that I don't love my child. What I was saying was that I love this boy with all my heart, and I would do absolutely anything to keep him safe and keep him healthy. But could I have gone my life without being a mother? Probably. Would I change this now? No. And has motherhood taken a very long time to grow on me? Yes. And that's okay. And I think that's the thing that for me was really a turning point, was realizing that the two are not mutually exclusive, that my love for my child and my love for motherhood are not the same. So yes, before I ramble on, Jill, I think that I will stop there only because some more of my story will fit into some of the questions that our viewers have had. And so I will continue to bring in little anecdotes about my story into the viewer questions, if that will help with time.
Yes. So that will be great. Thank you. Thank you so much. What you've shared already was really opening up your authentic self and showing us the true experience of motherhood. You are so right when you say that people don't speak about the difficult things. They speak
Mm,
about birth, they speak about the physical part of it,
yes.
but hardly ever does anyone ever touch on the mental part of it.
Yeah.
So I think that is really great. So we can go on to our viewer questions, and then I think we'll hear more about your own story there as well.
Yeah.
So the first one is, how do I explain how I feel to my husband and my family?